up, FT fam? Happy second half of the season. It's the OG FT crew here. Scotty Braun, Eric Kratz, AJ Przynski. We hope you enjoyed the All-Star break and the All-Star festivities. Of course, we did, and shout out to everyone behind the scenes that helped put everything together. We're traveling, so of course we want to keep it flowing like we do every single day year-round on FT. So what we're going to do today is we are going to do a little first half recap and a little bit of second half previewing. We're going to visit with many of our friends, hear from many of our friends from the FT fam, like Trevor May, Todd Father, and many more to go over what really stood out to them in the first half of the season and what they're looking forward to in the second half of the year. So we'll do our regular fan interactions, 3 guests a day, the whole deal starting again on Thursday. Let's first start with Team Surprise.
Charging the mound.
So, AJ, we are on every day during the offseason, hyping up teams, talking crap about other teams that we felt like missed the mark. But give me a team that has been the most surprising to you, that has stood out, that maybe in the offseason we didn't give much love to.
This one's simple. How about the Guardians? They're in first place. They have a big lead in the AL Central, and we were like, is this team even going to win 60 games this year? Because they didn't make any moves in the offseason. They brought in a new manager, got rid of Tito Francona, brought in Stephen Vogt. But for me, this is easy. It's the Guardians, and it's not even close.
Wow. I wonder if he stole your team because he also took one of your closest friends. No?
He didn't take my team.
Oh, but he
because
took your
I
friend.
knew this was going to happen. I knew Stephen Vogt was going to take them to a 6 to 10 game lead throughout the first half of the season. No, that's definitely, obviously you go to AJ first because he's your favorite. So he gets the first pick. Is my surprise bad that I'm a homer and I'm sitting here going, the Phillies are really this good? This pitching staff is really this good? A team that was, yes, they have good pitching, but they were built to rip the ball out of that tiny ballpark. And their pitching staff has gotten them to where it is. So maybe not the entire team has been a surprise. The pitching staff has been an incredible surprise, making their whole team a surprise.
Right, exactly. And it's kind of something we've been looking forward to from them for a while, especially from the top of the rotation. Yeah, they've been disappointing to an extent in prior regular seasons, and it hasn't mattered.
Prior first halves.
First halves, yes.
100%.
Okay. For me, is it weird to say the New York Mets being involved and that they're going to be buyers is a surprise? We talked up their offense, but I didn't think their pitching would hold up, and you can make a case against their relief pitching, certainly can, but depth-wise, I think they're going to make the trades that they need to make if they want to. I'm not calling this a World Series team, but I am surprised that they've been hovering around the 500 mark after a really bad start to the season. Okay, let's go over the losers. Kratz, you can start then. You can go first here. A disappointment, a team where you're like, I cannot believe they're in this position right now.
Not so much I can't believe they're in this position, but so much that they shouldn't be in this position. Chicago Cubs.
Yeah.
Chicago Cubs. There's plenty of teams that don't do anything, and they get rewarded for it in the season in the sense that they're below 500. They're doing all this stuff. The Cubs are a disappointment from the 5th inning. I think that's when they said the game was in the offseason was in the 5th inning.
Yeah, not a real game. It's their offseason game.
From the 5th inning on of the offseason has been a real disappointment. Hey, you signed Cody Bellinger. Absolutely. But he was on your team last year. And they eked it out. They eked this disappointment out over the Blue Jays for me because of the fact that they brought Cody Bellinger back. Blue Jays didn't bring Brandon Belt back, and they're in the position they're in. But the Cubs are in this position, and their starting rotation has been awesome. They just haven't figured out how to win. So to me, they're my disappointment.
Okay. Are you jealous that he got to pick the Cubs? Is that a team that you would have liked to speak poorly about, AJ?
No, because I expect them to lose every year. So no, they're not disappointing to me at all. No, I'm going the other team. I'm going the Blue Jays because of what they did have, their starting rotation, their bullpen. Their lineup was still supposed to be good. Yes, they didn't bring back Chapman. Yes, they didn't bring back Bell, but they did bring back Kiermaier. They went out and got IKF. They made a push for Shohei. Didn't get him, clearly. But, yeah, for me, it's the Blue Jays. They were expected to be – this is supposed to be like the year, right? They went to the playoffs last year, didn't get it done. They were going to take the next step. They're way under 500, way behind in the division, have no chance of the division, and I'm not sure they have any chance at the wild card. So they're going to be sellers here coming up, everyone believes. So for me, they're by far the biggest appointment.
For me, I definitely have to go with the Marlins. I thought this team was going to win a World Series. No, I'm just kidding. They did nothing in the offseason, and of course their pitching fell apart. Yeah, I'm a troll. I'm actually going to go with the Texas Rangers. I still think they could, do some damage in the second half of the season. But if you told me they were in this spot at the All-Star break, I'd be pretty surprised, especially if you gave me the reasoning. I know their offense picked up the pace a little bit here in July, but the way that they're getting beat by teams and the way they were getting beat by fastballs and high fastballs with their offense has been surprising. A player like, say, Josh Young missing most of the first half of the season. Okay, I just didn't think, you would consistently watch a Rangers game. They'd be like, they really miss Young. I'm like, okay, but there's so many other players on that team that, they can rely on. Semien has had a pretty down first half of the season, even though he ended up being an all-star starter. Seager started the season a little bit late, but he's been pretty solid for them. So offense has picked up the pace. I'm not saying I don't believe in what they can do in the second half of the season. I just didn't think that they would be here, and I didn't think the offense would be the problem, right? The defense has been good. The pitching's been up and down, and you've been looking forward to players coming back for them. But I am surprised that the offense has been middle of the pack, and last year they ranked third in runs per game. They're not even close to that this year. So let's hear from some others in the FT fam about their first half surprise and first half disappointments.
Yeah, so my biggest surprise this year, one of the biggest surprises in baseball, Boston Red Sox. You got to go with the Boston Red Sox. They've had major injuries. Vaughn Grisham has gone down. Giolito has gone down. Casas has gone down. I don't think anybody expected anything out of the Red Sox, and yet they're nipping at the heels of the Orioles and the Yankees and possibly have a chance to be in the playoffs. And if the playoffs were right now, they would be in.
My biggest team surprise in the first half would have to be the Boston Red Sox. I mean, Jarren Duran has been having an excellent year. All-star as we know it. Rafael Devers been doing it for years to come now, and the pitching staff has been unbelievable. They have a real shot to make some noise here in the second half.
The team that has surprised me the most in the first half of this season has been the Boston Red Sox. I am ashamed to say it, but I had them on the cellar going into the season. I thought that Craig Breslow and Andrew Bailey would need a little bit more time with the guys to get the philosophy shaken up, to make the meaningful changes, to possibly change some personnel or go grab some new guys. And that has not been the case. It was immediate. The pitching improved dramatically. It seems like you could see the influence of Andrew Bailey immediately with Tanner Houck and Cutter Crawford. These guys are having, arguably their best years of their careers. The bullpen has been really solid. Kenley Jensen is doing the job out there in the back end. They're winning the games they're supposed to win. And you can't fault the offense either, something that we thought that maybe would be an issue. But Tyler O'Neill came out hot to start the year. And then we have Jarren Duran's now an all-star. And we got Rafi Devers doing Rafi Devers things. And even the defense has been steadily improving over time. So the Red Sox are my biggest surprise.
Well, my biggest surprise, I think, when you talk about the first half and you start to look at what teams have done, for me, it's easy. I have to go to the Cleveland Guardians and what they've been able to do. You talk about a starting rotation that, other than Ben Lively, has, tried to struggle and find their way. You have to go to that bullpen. What they've been able to do when you talk about a bullpen coming in and just shutting it down. And then you look at the offense. I think they have one of the most underrated players in all of the game, and that's Jose Ramirez. He just continues to quietly come out every year and be amongst the top of the RBI leaders, to be amongst the guys doing damage. He is just as solid and as consistent as you get. So for me, I think it's easy to say that the Cleveland Guardians are by far my surprise team of the first half.
I'm going to go with the Cleveland Guardians and the Milwaukee Brewers. It's a two-part answer for me because these two teams have the same thing going on. Both lost their managers. Craig Counsell went over to the Cubs. Tito retired. In comes Stephen Vaught, and in comes Pat Murphy. So you got first-year managers. They're going to rely heavily on their aces and their staffs. Corbin Burns, gone to Baltimore. Shane Bieber, gone to an injury. So now they're without their aces for the staff, and these two teams still are on top in first place of the standings and still in a great position to play in the postseason.
Now, when you start to talk about biggest disappointments of the season, for me, I had to give this a long, hard look and think about teams who I'm really disappointed with, how they started, how they began the season. And it's hard for me to think of any other team other than the Toronto Blue Jays. When you look at the promise, when you look at the expectation of this team, I know the American League East is one of the toughest divisions in all of baseball, but this team, when you talk about Bo Bichette, when you talk about Vladdy Guerrero Jr., George Springer, Kiermaier, Dalton Varsho, all of these guys that you bring back, Alejandro Kirk, he's a guy that showed that his best tool was his hit tool. When you look at this offense and you look at the rotation, the guys that they went out and tried to get to bolster this rotation, they just continue to seem to not be on the same page. Now, granted, Vladdy Jr. has really turned the corner. He's starting to look like that guy that we know he can be. Bo Bichette still trying to find his way. George Springer from time to time having his moments, but they have to find a way after this All-Star break to get some consistency from that offense.
My biggest team disappointment would have to be, and you guys are going to call me crazy, but the Houston Astros is a team coming into it thinking that they're going to be number one and just ride out this AL West. They've been a huge disappointment, even though they're coming on strong a little bit more with the bullpen they have and the hitters they have. They should have a better second half, but right now, time to pick it up.
Yeah, so my biggest disappointment this year has to be the Arizona Diamondbacks. Team that went to the World Series last year, had a Rookie of the Year. And I hate to say this, but the World Series hangover is a real thing. And I not only are the Diamondbacks struggling from the World Series hangover, I think the Texas Rangers are as well. But I'm going to go with the Diamondbacks just because, they have zero offense from what they had last year. I think the under has hit more times than anybody on the Arizona Diamondbacks this year in Vegas than any other team. So I might be taking the under for the rest of the way out on the Diamondbacks. But you look at Sewald, you look at Corbin, you look at these guys have just not produced this year. And, I think that for me, there was a lot of expectations just because, you go out and you get Jordan Montgomery. Oh, we're going to go to the World Series back again this year. We're going to win it. Well, that doesn't look to be the case this year.
My biggest disappointment on the flip side would probably have to be the Cincinnati Reds. The offense has been underwhelming, which I thought was their biggest strength. They've been hit with a few injuries. They had a suspension earlier in the year. Not having Matt McClain is a big deal. I thought he was going to be a huge reason that they ended up winning their division. Though they are not at the bottom, they're close. Fortunately, they're in the NL, and every single team besides the Rockies is still in it. So there's still hope. Maybe with Ellie De La Cruz picking it up once again and going on a tear, he could be a big reason for them to do that. But I'm going to need a little bit more out of Graham Ashcraft if he's able to get back to the big leagues. I need a little bit more out of the starting rotation, but I need a little bit more thump out of those bats, and you got to take advantage of Cincinnati when you're there.
I was leaning towards the Oakland A's, but that's more towards their management. The team itself has not been a disappointing. They're starting to fight and play some good baseball, so I'm immediately going to turn my focus to the Chicago White Sox. They got to be playing better baseball than what they've been showing. To have a record-setting losing streak happen, to have almost their fans all wanting them to sell the team, everything. It's just not good over on the south side of Chicago right now. And the White Sox, who are probably only 2 years removed from a window, so to speak, they are just at the bottom and no light at the end of the tunnel is coming fast either right now either.
We'll do much more first half recapping and second half previewing on Foul Territory next. Let's move to some individual accomplishments. The most surprising player performance of the first half of the season and a disappointing player performance. So, Kratz, first off, who made you excited? What was a great story?
Somebody that's proven me wrong, although it's not too tough to prove me wrong, but Jurickson Profar, not only did Major League Baseball not think he is this good, making an all-star team, starting an all-star game, but he signed for $1 million. So ultimately, he kind of thought he wasn't that good because there's a lot of guys who were holding out that had much better seasons last year for more money. He knew he had to prove it, so he might actually have surprised himself.
Well, he's a confident guy, so maybe he thought he was going to do this and that teams were overlooking him. And at some point, you got to sign. At some point, you got to sign.
And it was a big
Unless you're
deal.
Brandon Belt or somebody like that later in your career and you're like, nah, it's not worth the money. He's too young.
He's too young. Oh,
Yeah.
He's been in the league for 10 years and he's still too young.
He's still too young. Yeah, exactly. So that's a good name. I feel like you were missing someone, and it's going to bother you. You were missing someone. Yes. It's going to bother you.
Is it a Philly or a Brewer? Is that why it's a surprise?
No, but it's a team that you do talk about, and you were pretty good on them. Once I give you one clue, you'll get it right away.
Okay.
You talked up their manager.
Oh, I mean,
come on.
I mean, David Fry.
French fry.
But you can't say he's a surprise.
He's
you didn't even know about
surprise.
him.
He's a massive.
No,
he's a massive surprise.
It's a different word than surprise.
If you're watching right now, whether you're in the chat or send us something, please let us know if that qualifies. That is a massive surprise.
It's a massive surprise. Nobody saw it coming.
Yeah.
And I'm disappointed. So that was just me. I'm deflecting. I was trying to.
They're both good names. I love the Profar story. I'm going to talk more about him later.
No, you win. Dang it. It's like getting out-ordered at a meal.
I take round one.
Me. You took round one.
Who saw David Fry doing this? He is an all-star for the Cleveland Guardians, and he helps tell the story of Cleveland where not much has changed, and yet they're one of the best ball clubs in baseball, and the offense has been so surprising for them. Nobody saw David Fry doing what he did at the beginning of the season in the first half, and he plays multiple positions for them.
Not much has changed, yet everything has changed.
Exactly. That is the motto for the Cleveland Guardians. Next up, disappointment.
Man, I have a tough time going down 0-2 here, so I'm going to go first again.
Okay.
Their team's in first place, and maybe this means that water level's out, and the rest of the season is going to go better. But Julio Rodriguez, you saw this exact same thing last first half. Hit that unbelievable stretch. I don't know if he was player of the month or not, but it kind of like, oh, maybe he was pressured by the whole hometown hero with the All-Star game being in Seattle. And you're like, he's got it. You hear about all this stuff. Oh, he just needed to get his foot down, his hands separated, whatever it is. And then you bring in a new offensive coordinator and you're like, Julio Rodriguez, MVP. And he has been a massive disappointment for them. Yeah,
he has. And I think this first half has been even worse than the last first half. Whatever. The numbers might be close.
Maybe
whatever it is.
The average is better, but...
Whatever it is,
yeah.
It looks worse. I watch a lot of Mariners games. It's rolling over a lot of baseballs on the ground. But he proved us wrong last year. Not proved us wrong, but he turned it around in the second half. Yeah. I think a reset could be in play here, and he could be much better for Seattle in the second half. I was back and forth between two. You want me to tell you the two I was going between?
I want you to choose the one. And
I have the one.
The other one.
I have the one. The one is Corbin Carroll.
Okay.
Being what he did last season and the type of player that he is, I just didn't see him going through these kind of struggles. I mean, massive struggles. Almost to the point where, you're getting platooned a little bit. Like, this looked like a rising star that was going to maybe steal 70, 80 bags this year, makes contact, has pop, has it all, and shined in the playoffs for a team that made it to the World Series. Usually they don't, right?
Yeah.
So when you see this, you start to wonder. I mean, it is a rookie going into a sophomore season. This is your classic sophomore slump. Was there an adjustment made? Is there an injury that is being overlooked? I don't know. It hasn't seemed to be the case. You haven't heard much about that. So anyway, that's my name. But I did have a pretty big name, number 2. Bo Bichette has taken a big step back. I mean, I know he's had some flashes. You like the 2 better?
I liked your number 2 better.
Okay. Yeah, Bo Bichette has not put it together at the plate for the most part. He's had, a decent stretch or two, but it's been a lot of disappointment from him at the plate. And the defense, I feel like, has carried along with it a little bit. Classic change of scenery need in my mind.
Yeah, I think that's the easy thing to say, change of scenery. I think it's also easy for me to say, the dude's 26 years old. Like, he didn't, just have good years. He led the league in hits.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he knows how to get hits. And I think there's a real thing to, no contract extension. Who are you going to extend, me or Vladdy? I haven't said anything like that, but his quote the other day about how I don't know that I necessarily see myself here or that I could get traded.
Yeah, he would not be surprised if he would get dealt. I just think that we're nearing the end of the Bo Bichette era in Toronto, whether it's at this trade deadline or the offseason. I have a pretty strong feeling that he's not going to re-sign there. So
Yes.
anyway, 2 good names. I felt like 3 good names. We all did well there. We'll call that one a push-ish.
Push. Because you had 2.
I had 2.
You
yeah,
had 2, and I
you
had
picked
1.
the superstar, or not the superstar. He's not a superstar yet, but you picked a big name that had high expectations. So anyway, FT fam. I mean, the rest of the hosts. Who do you have?
My biggest player surprise would have to be Mason Miller. This guy came out of nowhere for the Oakland A's, and he throws really hard. It seems like every time he pitches in the 9th inning, nobody is getting on base. The guy is superb, and he's going to be a future dominant player for years to come.
My biggest surprise player of the first half of the MLB season this year has been someone who was kind of a low risk, high reward 1-year deal that was picked up. Used to be a stud, so it's not too surprising, I guess. But if you've checked out what Chris Sale has been doing in Atlanta, the resurgence that he's had in his career, he is proving to everybody that when he's healthy, and we've always kind of known this, when he's healthy, he is one of the toughest pitchers, one of the best pitchers in the entire league. And he is proving it again this year.
My biggest surprise this year has to be Shota Imanaga. I mean, this guy has come out of Japan like a lightning bolt, man. And, everybody was concentrated on Yamamoto, and nobody heard of Shota. And so to me, this guy, if the Cubs did not have this guy in their rotation, where would they be right now? They would be probably at the bottom of the barrel. But this guy has come to America, and he has taken over like everybody thought that Yamamoto would. And this guy has the old invisible fastball, and he rotates that son of a gun, and he can throw it. I mean, he's got great stats. We can go on and on about all the stats he has. His walks per hits, per innings pitch, his whip is great. And he doesn't walk anybody. And he goes out there and he gives the Cubs a chance to win every day, which they desperately need.
My biggest surprise player-wise of the first half of the season has been Reynaldo Lopez. It's a very interesting situation with Reynaldo because he's part of a group of guys that went from relieving for a long time to back to starting. And for the most part, all of those guys have had really, really great responses. Jordan Hicks has thrown very, very well. Reynaldo's thrown really well. Seth Lugo, though he was a starter last year, he spent 3 years being a reliever for that, and he's in contention for the Cy Young at this point. Garrett Crochet was a reliever for a long time, and now he's been giving an extended look at starting, and now he's one of the best pitchers in the league. So this is something that didn't happen very often in the past, and it's happening like 5 times this year, which is a really interesting thing, and I think Reynaldo's a great example of that. Also, I played against him. There's maybe a little bit of bias here, and I saw the beginning part of his career as a starter, and he really, really struggled. It seemed like he was just one of those guys where it wasn't going to work out, even though he had good stuff, and he's going to be a reliever. And then he had a lot of success as a reliever, and usually that's the nail in the coffin. It was for me, frankly. So I was like, okay, well, I don't see why we would want him to go try to be a starter again, because that rarely works. And boy, was I wrong. Reynaldo Lopez has been a huge help for the Atlanta Braves, keeping them in that race, especially with their offensive struggles. In terms of their standards, probably this year, but also picking up the slack for when Strider went down. Him and Chris Sale have done wonders for that staff, and they have still one of the better 1-2-3 punches with the addition of Max Fried in there. They can hang with anybody in a playoff series. So, and he's a big reason for that.
My most surprising player in Major League Baseball in the first half of 2024 is Marcell Ozuna. You can make a case that he's the MVP of the National League. He has carried the Braves. The Braves have struggled offensively with Riley. Obviously, Acuna being out the entire year. Matt Olson has not been as good. Sean Murphy's been out. Ozzie Albies hasn't been as good. Michael Harris has missed a bunch of time. So for me, the most surprising player in Major League Baseball is Marcell Ozuna. And now the other side, the most disappointing player in 2024 MLB first half for me is, I was going to say Jose Abreu, but he got released and he's no longer playing, so he could win this award going away. Instead, I'm going Julio Rodriguez of the Seattle Mariners. Came into this year thinking this guy's a superstar. He had a hot second half, carried the Mariners almost to the playoffs. This year, his OPS is down, his strikeouts are up, his power is down, his slug is down. And for me, not seeing Julio Rodriguez in Texas at the All-Star game is the most disappointing thing so far.
Most disappointing, though, was my guess for MVP this year. And again, maybe there's some bias here, and I'm not going to apologize for that. But Julio Rodriguez has disappointed me thus far. We expected more. We expect he's a $400 million player. We expect him to be the guy that can't beat you on that team, that teams are having to game plan around. And so far, he has not been that person. But I am always going to be hopeful for a 23-year-old that has the skill set that he has. He's an impressive athlete, and there's no reason that with some approach adjustments and some practice in that area, and just committing to being that guy, I think that'll go a long way. And I would not be surprised if we see a crazy month or a crazy streak out of Julio Rodriguez, because that seems to be his MO.
It's going to be a most disappointment for me. I'm going to say Ronald Acuna Jr. because I'm disappointed I don't get to see this guy play baseball for another year because of an unfortunate injury. He's just as disappointed. He's even more disappointed than I am, but I'm disappointed along with baseball fans not being able to watch what he can do on a baseball field for another season, because when he's healthy, he's one of the top 3 players in the entire game with every single tool that he has. So he hasn't been disappointed because he's a bad performance. He's just disappointed because I can't get to watch him play.
My biggest player disappointment would have to be Vlad Guerrero Jr. People are like, oh, man, he's doing good. Well, he hasn't had the years like he's had in the past. I'm waiting for him to take off and go out there and dominate. So for the first half, I'm looking for more power, and I'm looking, for some more RBIs. So I'm looking for a better second half from him.
Well, this year, the natural has come back down to earth. And I don't want to say come back down to earth, but I think we are learning just how hard our game is, right? The game of baseball, you constantly have to continue to make adjustments. You constantly have to continue to adjust to what they're adjusting to you on. And I think right now, Corbin Carroll is that guy that is going through that learning curve. Everything in my bones tells me that he is still that guy. He is still the guy that leads the team. He's still the face of a franchise. But right now, when you look at the struggles of the Arizona Diamondbacks, a team who went out and made a ton of moves to bolster that roster after what they did in the playoffs against the LA Dodgers, right? You thought coming in, you talk about Eduardo Rodriguez, and they bring Guerrero back, and you have Corbin Carroll, who seems like the catalyst. Ketel Marte has been amazing. Corbin Carroll has to find a way to get it going. Right now, my guy, the natural, Corbin Carroll, is struggling more than I could have ever imagined, and you're seeing it affect the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Back with more Foul Territory after this. Hey, this is the segment where we're going to shout out all the great guests that we have really all year on FT, because this show runs in the off season too, every weekday. But we appreciate on most days 3 guests coming on this show: writers, reporters, insiders, and the players, of course. This is the spot to hear from the players.
It's an eclectic mix.
Yes.
We got everybody.
We do it every day on FT. So if you want to hear real talk from players, you know where to go. And we're going to show you some of the best conversations, little tidbits that we had from the first half of the season right now. Special guest joining us right now on FT, and I'm really glad he's joining us. Kevin Pillar right now, after just getting DFA'd by the Chicago White Sox. Kevin, we really appreciate you jumping in right after this. I think it's an important player perspective. So when did you find out the news, and how you doing today, man?
Oh, I'm fine, man. Look, I'm sitting in a dark closet, sad, hiding. I found out this morning. I mean, I felt like the writing was on the wall for a little bit. You hate that your mind goes there, but you play GM a little bit. Like, I knew that, Tommy and me, as much as we could coexist, we kind of offer the same sort of thing. And, the writing was on the wall for me. So, you always hope that it's not you, but when you get the phone call from your GM in the morning, it's not for him to see how you're doing. You kind of know the outcome.
But Yamamoto is the man. Like, for being a 24-year-old guy, first year in the big leagues, not speaking the language, his confidence is, and it's not like an arrogance. It's very much like he's comfortable in his skin 24/7. Like, it's, when I was 24 in the big leagues, I was not. I was terrified all the time, and I was afraid of doing the wrong things or saying the wrong things. And he just has a very confident aura to him.
Losing a guy like Ohtani, it's you can't replace a guy like him. When he's pitching and hitting, it's hard to replace. Of course, I was trying to get him to come back. Talk to him, a few times. Obviously, see him when we played him in the Freeway Series and stuff like that. But I'm excited for him, happy for him, and he's going to kill it wherever he's at.
Is this still the best BP you've ever seen in your life?
Yeah, it's a joke.
Dude,
It's a joke.
Remember, you told me in Texas to stay out there.
Yeah,
He
it's a
was
joke.
putting him in dead center.
Well, there's like a couple rounds where he's just like flicking stuff, like 10 rows deep, and then once I don't know if he like sees people watching him, like, hey, here we go, and he turns it on. He takes it to another gear, so it's fun to watch.
I think an oblique is possibly the worst position player injury that you can have, because there's nothing you can do to strengthen it or to help it get better or to help it heal quicker. You just have to sit there and wait. So it's been pretty rough.
It's just about making sure you know what you do really well and then doing it as often as possible. I think that's the number one thing. It's the number one challenge every team has with everybody, but it's the number one thing that you can break through. I was kind of a 4A guy, didn't really know my place, and then I went to Seattle and they said, if you throw a sweeper slider and fastballs up, you're going to be successful. And I kind of figured I might as well take the chance, and it worked.
You guys have Adley Rutschman behind the dish, and the guy just does not know how to lose. Do you talk smack to him?
A little bit, but
don't.
at the same time,
You're lying.
a little bit. But at the same time, like him and James McCann, like I have to be careful with him because McCann for sure probably would tell the batter what was coming. When I'm up there, because I like to talk a lot of smack with him. So I could I don't know if Rutsch would do it, but I think James McCann might let him know, hey, fastball's coming right here, inside, and then do the whole, you shouldn't have shook me off or whatever thing.
You're an orange and blue guy, Florida, now the Mets. So you can't leave the orange and blue. You have to stay in it. I mean, everything in your house at this point has to be orange and blue.
Well, I've had the same wardrobe since I signed my national letter of intent in high school, which was 2012. So yeah, I've had the same wardrobe for a while, but honestly, like I love this city. I love playing as a Met. I love being a Met. And this team, it's the personality of the guys in the clubhouse, the staff, and the coaches. It's just been, for me, this is family and this is home.
I did about 230 elbow ligaments last year. I've done 70 just in the first quarter alone this year. The preponderance of this is on the pro side, but we're seeing the same kind of spike on the college and the high school side. And I think that we've known for years that this increase in velocity, which has trended up, has resulted in this set of consequences. But I think there's a broader picture than this. I think what I like to call the designer pitches, I think has had a significant impact equally as well.
What does it take for you to be an MVP candidate?
I work hard, every day to try to be like Byron Buxton or Carlos Correa. And, for me personally, I think I'm treating it like this is my first full season ever really in the big leagues in general. So I'm kind of like a rookie. I'm fresh and I'm excited to show everyone what I got and just go out there and play as many as I can, as many as Rocco and the staff needs.
What do you think you can pull off in the bigs with the way that the rules have changed and obviously the speed that you have if you got a full season in it?
I say at least 35.
I like that.
Playing the Dodgers is always a good series in general. The game is hyped, and the energy is high. Your adrenaline is high, everything, because it's the Dodgers. And the same way when they play against us, you kind of feel like it's a postseason game all the time. So, after those games, whoever win, you're going home and you're all watching highlights, watching what happened, how you're going to be better tomorrow. It's fun when you play great teams.
Do you have a fire walkout yet?
We're trying a couple things out. We talked about the lights. I don't think that's going to happen. They said the lights might not come back on. But we got a couple decal or going around the facade.
Would you waive your no trade again? Would it be 3 times in 4 years?
Yeah, I'm not going to do that, but I just don't think I even have to think about that. I think we're going to play better baseball, and it's going to be even a moot point to even talk about. So I think we're going to win here.
We'll be right back on Foul Territory to keep recapping the first half and previewing the second half. It is awards time on FT. Just for the first half of the season, a lot can change, but we're going to hear from some of our hosts. We'll go with MVP first, AL and NL. We will begin. And Kratz, we'll go to the American League first because I feel like it's pretty direct. It's a head-to-head competition right now. Would you agree?
In the same division.
Yes.
In my opinion.
Gunnar Henderson versus Aaron Judge. How do you decide right now?
Right now? I have to say who carried the team is who I'm going to take over who is the catalyst for a team.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say Aaron Judge, what he did in May and June to get back-to-back player of the months, to have Barry Bonds type of numbers for both of those months, he carried this team. Not that they were as abysmal as like a 2022 Yankees where it was Aaron Judge and nobody else, but he carried this team. I think Gunnar Henderson is we're talking about a whisker away from the MVP right now. I'm taking Aaron Judge. Maybe I'm a little biased because Gunnar Henderson is my favorite player right now to watch in the league. Most electric player in the whole league.
Wow. Okay. I'm offended. We'll get to my NL pick in a moment. I know it was. But I'm on the same page. I got Judge. I think it's close. Those two are right up there. I know Gunnar plays short. Fun to watch. Where are the Yankees without Judge right now? I do think Judge has had the slightly better offensive season as well. So I'll give it to Judge right now in the first half of the season. National League is interesting. I have a hard time going with a pick that I'm sure some will throw out there, and we've had this discussion. I'm not there yet on Ohtani. We get another second half of the season with him, okay. It's hard for me to take a DH for an LMVP. I'm struggling with that, so I'm not going to do it. What are you doing? Are you picking him?
You have that in there. You have that DH. I can't
It's hard. I mean, he's not in the field.
He's not in the field.
He's on a team that has help. I know, Mookie went down, but he was there at the beginning of the season, shining. Freddie's there. The bottom half of the lineup for the Dodgers has, for the most part, been bad. So I get that, right?
You've gone through stretches where,
but even without, and I know this isn't the whole part of the game. It's not most outstanding player. We can do the value part of the debate, but anyway, for me, I'm not there yet on going with a DH.
He's not the most valuable player. I hear that, but he's pretty freaking valuable for that team.
Is that who you're picking, though? Because
my pick is Shohei Ohtani.
It is, okay.
Because he's beating out Bryce Harper right now. And Harper spent that little 10-day whatever vacation for his hamstring. They are both out on the field. Ohtani, I think, and this is crazy, I think his little bit of base running, his stolen bases, he got 40 stolen bases. I get it. We never give DHs this award. It's never happened. How many DHs are stealing this many bags? On a night in and night out basis, he is a menace in a lineup. He's the best hitter in that lineup.
Mm-hmm.
I can give it to Shohei.
I'm going off the board, okay?
Shocker.
You're going to be shocked about the two players that I was considering, not Ohtani and Harper, but I was looking at Yelich and Elly De La Cruz. And for Elly, I know, FT fam, you're probably going to get after me because I've been a huge fan of him since day one, and I'm talking about in the minor leagues, but go look at Fangraphs WAR right now and see where Elly's at, okay? This is a guy that you want 40? I'll give you probably 80 stolen bags. He's getting on base this year. He has made significant improvements. He's got insane pop numbers. He's playing a premium position. He keeps getting better at that position. So I am actually going to go with Elly De La Cruz in the first half of the season. I know it sounds weird. The Reds would be out of it already without Elly. Like completely toast without Elly. So that's my pick. He is electric in every way and valuable. And let's see what everyone else picked.
2024 first half MVP in the American League is Aaron Judge. 30-plus homers, the best hitter on the Yankees, leading them in every category, leading the Yankees to a hot start. And when he goes, the Yankees go. So for me, Aaron Judge is an easy choice for the American League MVP for the first half. The National League MVP in the first half, a little bit different. I'm going to go with Shohei. I'm not sold on Shohei. Mookie didn't get hurt. Probably Mookie Betts. Bryce Harper you can make some noise for. Some other guys, a Willie Adames, a William Contreras of the Milwaukee Brewers. But for me, Shohei does it because of his numbers, his base running. I know he's only a DH. It was so hard for me just to vote for a DH because they don't play defense. They're not on both sides of the ball. Heck, you could even throw a Christian Yelich in there. But for me, right now, with the numbers he's put up and the way he transforms the game, it's Shohei Ohtani.
Let's talk MVP. Right now, I don't care what anybody says. Aaron Judge has been dominating this first half. He came off slow, and now he's hitting home runs in the 30s. I mean, who's hitting home runs? Who's hitting that many home runs in the first half of the year? His RBI numbers are out the roof, and he's helping this Yankee team become the team they should be.
In the AL, let's start. You got to go nowhere else but Aaron Judge on the New York Yankees. This guy has been a one-man wrecking shop for that offense. If he's not in that offense or if he's not hitting, you can tell that offense doesn't go the same way. But what he's been able to do in this first half of the season is one of the more historic first halves. And I'm excited to see what he can do the rest of the way. But for the AL is Aaron Judge. And the NL, his counterpart, we're going right back to Shohei Ohtani. These two guys have been unbelievable with what they could do with the bats. And just to think that Ohtani will come back and start pitching again is, again, going to be incredible. But these two guys have been absolutely forces in the middle of their lineups. And the big reason that they're two of the more talked about teams is because these two players are carrying them right now.
My guy up in the Bronx, Aaron Judge, is having another phenomenal year. It looks like he's going to chase his own record, which anytime you can do that in a Yankee uniform, man, you know you are doing something spectacular. Batting average is high. Home runs are high. Exit velo like none other. To me, he's a man out there. He is a man-child playing with boys. And, you just look at him. And this guy, his stature and the way that he controls that clubhouse, the Yankees would be nowhere without this guy. Yes, Soto is having a great year too. But if you take Aaron Judge away from the Yankees are nowhere even close to where they are right now. My NL MVP is none other than my former teammate and friend, I must say, and friend, Bryce Harper. To me, this guy has completely changed the entire dynamic of the way he plays. He has changed the culture in that Phillies clubhouse. After I left the Phillies, the clubhouse culture, it just had been lost. And he has rejuvenated that clubhouse and that team. And, yeah, he's hurt right now, but I don't think he's going to be hurt for much more of the season. He knows how to play a season without getting through those major injuries. He knows how to stay healthy. He's got 20 some odd bombs. He's like 1,000 OPS, and with runners in score position, it's like 1,500. So, I mean, this guy, when the game is on the line, there's nobody better. And those games when they're on the line and these players come up and they come through, to me that tells me I want to be the best. I want to be a leader on this team. That's what Bryce Harper is doing this year. And, man, he's putting the team on his back this year.
You know, I think you have to start with the NL and you have to go with Shohei Ohtani. I think what he's been able to do when you consider him a two-way guy who's coming back from Tommy John and looking at him to just be a hitter, I was really and extremely curious on how he would fare. Not so much that I didn't think he would do similar things, but he has been used to being a two-way guy. So when you look at him putting the pill down for a second and grabbing the bat and being locked in, I mean, his ability to do everything on a diamond is extremely, extremely incredible and impressive. I mean, the guy is, 6'4" plus. He's arguably the fastest guy on the field. He can steal you a bag. He can hit it as far as anybody. He is just a special talent. He is truly unicorn. I call him AI. I don't think he's real. He's artificial intelligence. But Shohei Ohtani is by far the NL MVP, and I think it's not close. And then when you talk about the other league, right? Thank goodness these guys don't share leagues anymore. I think it's easy. It's Aaron Judge, right? Well, we've seen Aaron Judge do thus far after a very subpar April, but people don't talk about the damage. I know he struggled a little bit average and the consistency, but he still was sprinkling the damage in. And you look at him now getting hot. Holy cow. I mean, Aaron Judge, we're talking about one of the greatest power hitters to ever grab a bat, to ever step on a baseball field. And it is impressive as I've ever seen.
Bobby Witt Jr. is my first half MVP for the AL because I think the Royals have greatly performed a lot of people's expectations. Though they have leveled out in the last month or so, they're still a very good team, and he is a major reason why. He is in the top third percentile in every single run value category, from fielding to base running to hitting, according to Baseball Savant. So when a guy is, in the top 5 of all 3 of the major tools categories, it's safe to say that he's a really valuable player to his team, and he's just fun to watch. And the Royals are fun to watch, and he's kind of like, they're building hurricane, and he's the eye of that thing. For the NL, in probably not a big surprise to many people, only maybe because he's not pitching this year, but Shohei Ohtani is my MVP. Frankly, the race isn't as close. Now, if he were in the AL, I don't think he would be. I think Bobby Witt would still be the MVP, but he doesn't have as much competition. I think Yelich is in that conversation, and there's some other guys too, but I think that's dependent on how their seasons play out. So Shohei Ohtani with the average, 170 ex velo, whatever it is my NL MVP.
Time to swing it to the pitching. So AL and NL Cy Young picks. FT hosts, go.
First half Cy Young for me, 2024, National League. It's an easy choice for me, and people can call me a homer. I don't really care, but I'm going with Chris Sale. With Spencer Strider going out for the Braves, with Max Fried having missed time, Charlie Morton not pitching as well for the Braves, and some of the rookies they've had to use, Chris Sale has been a rock in their rotation. He has double-digit wins, an ERA in the 2s. He's going to be in the All-Star game. He's not going to pitch because of the schedule. But, man, right now, Chris Sale deserves his first ever Cy Young in the National League. Now, in the American League, little tougher choice for me because I know Seth Lugo of the Kansas City Royals has had a great first half, but I'm going for an FT foul territory regular in Tarik Skubal. Left-handed, double-digit wins, leading the Tigers rotation, just been a stud. And right now in the first half, he deserves the 2024 American League Cy Young.
Cy Young Award winner, the guy that comes to my mind, Chris Sale. I know there's a bunch of others that you could say. I played with this guy. Maybe I'm a little biased. He's got really good numbers. He's an all-star. He's a dominant player. And to see what he has done from being not healthy, I hope this second half is just as good as his first half.
Starting with the AL, I have another hard decision, but I'm going to go Corbin Burns. What he has meant to that Orioles team, I think, is kind of invaluable, especially with the loss of Bradish and Means earlier in the year, and for the rest of the year, they were going to need a lot of pitching depth. Had they not made that trade, they made that trade, and he has been as advertised, maybe even better. The Orioles' success has a lot to do with him, and he's just killing it. And I think he's well on his way to win his second Cy Young. For the NL, this was very interesting because, up until about a week ago, I think there's 3 guys on one team you could have talked about, and that is the Philadelphia Phillies. But in terms of consistency, in terms of workload, in terms of innings, in terms of strikeouts, in terms of whip, the guy I got to go with right now is Zach Wheeler. It's funny. We all forget about Zach Wheeler because he's so nonchalant and so buttoned up and so just like it's business as usual. But him and Aaron Nola over there are constantly doing the same thing every single year. I think overall he's going to be your number 1. And Ranger Suarez is going to be your number 2 in a playoff series, and that's enough to push me ahead of him for the Cy Young in the first half.
I'm going to go with Chris Sale. Forget the numbers. I mean, what he has given the Braves, when you look at the injuries that they've had to withstand to some of their arms, their big arms, and you look at the expectation that they had coming into this season, right? This is a team that continues to find a way to be right in the mix, continues to find a way to lead the NL East. And you look at the injuries, Chris Sale was the right guy, right? He was the best transaction that they made the entire offseason. I mean, he came in hungry, he came in ready, he came in, in a way that looked rejuvenated.
My NL Cy Young I'm going to go to Chris Sale, who probably also could possibly get comeback player of the year. This guy dealt with the last 2 years of his career in Boston, dealt with injury after injury. And to me, to be able to come back from those injuries at the age he is now is so much harder. He's taken, his New Jersey and put it on his back and said, hey, Atlanta, I'm here. I'm a different guy this year, and I'm coming to win a championship. So, and I like the leadership that he brings too. My AL Cy Young, I've got to give this to Skubal. Man, this guy, he's come out of nowhere. I say nowhere, but I'm sure the Detroit Tiger fans knew exactly who he was. But this guy is pitching lights out. He is single-handedly putting the Detroit Tigers back on the map. And his ERA, his whip, his strikeout percentage, and his walk percentage, all of these major stats for a pitcher, he's like top 5 in all of them. And to be able to be top 5 in all of these stats really says that he's a complete pitcher. And I'm looking forward to him having another big half.
My first half AL Cy Young Award winner so far, going out to Detroit, to Tarek Skubal. This lefty has been absolutely dominating and making the Tigers a little bit of a surprise team. They've been hanging around. I don't think anybody was really thinking they were going to do much, but because of his head of the rotation and the way he's been pitching and kind of affecting the rest of that rotation, Tarek's been lighting it up down there, and guys are not looking forward to seeing him. And then we're going to match him with another lefty who I talked about a little bit earlier, Chris Sale on the Braves. The resurgence of this ace, who's one of my favorite pitchers to watch, one of my favorite people, is my NL Cy Young for the first half of the MLB season so far.
Time for us to decide. You want to start AL or NL?
Let's go AL.
AL?
I like the AL to NL.
I think the AL has more competition, more names that you could throw out there and I could say yes to, like 4 or 5 names, where I feel like it's like 2 or 3 in the NL.
Yes, I would agree. I feel like it's a 2-horse race in the NL. And if I'm just thinking off the top of my head, I feel like the top 3 are close.
Lugo, Burns, Skubal.
And I feel like after those 3, it kind of falls off a little bit.
Okay.
Like I feel like the NL kind of falls off with Sale as being that like 3 through 7 category. But I'm going Burnsy.
Yeah?
I'm going Burnsy. As much as Seth Lugo has defied odds,
that's not what this award is.
That's not what it is.
Best pitcher in the AL
Best
in the
pitcher
first half was who?
In the AL, night in and night out, Corbin Burns.
Okay.
Tarek Skubal has been dominant. I don't think he's been the best. And I think he has been, because it's the Cy Young is the MVP for pitchers. This is why pitchers I don't think should win MVP. It's the MVP. Who's the most valuable pitcher to their team? Corbin Burns was traded to be this guy, and he's like, oh, this guy? I'll just go ahead and do it then.
Yep. No, it's not a bad pick. I'll go Skubal. I do think he's got some better peripheral numbers, including the strikeouts. Which puts less on your defense, So it's hard to go wrong among those 3, and some people could go Lugo for sure. National League?
This is easy for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Who do you have?
This is Homer Dome for me.
Oh, yeah.
This is Ranger Suarez.
Really?
Ranger Suarez.
I thought you could have thrown Wheeler's name out there too.
Nope. The little blip right before the break.
Okay.
With Ranger, I get it. Wheeler's had one bad start where it was like 8 runs, I think. I don't know how many were earned that time. It was the most runs he's ever given up, and he is the most consistent Gold Glove winner. So it's taken that away from Ranger. But to me, what Ranger has done has been not so much more valuable. It's demeaning what Wheeler's done.
But also just who's been the best pitcher
Ranger
out there?
Suarez has been the guy who other teams before the game are like, how are we going to figure this guy out? Wheeler's the guy that you're like, oh, great, Zach Wheeler. I guess he's going to be tough for us. To me, Ranger Suarez wins this.
And they're in hitters' ballparks too, which makes it tough.
Which is crazy.
I'm saying hitters' ballparks because my pick's in a hitters' park too.
Because Ranger, this other stuff that he's doing, he doesn't have as many strikeouts. I don't think he has as many strikeouts as Wheeler. I don't think it's close, but he is doing it with such just diminished exit velocity. It doesn't even look like it's tough. You know how some closers go out and you're like, oh, it's like 2 runners on, 3 runners on. Okay, he got out of it. Starters can kind of be that way. It's been easy for Ranger.
Yeah, not many stress pitches.
No.
For many of his starts.
For many of them. There's been a few clunkers.
Sure. I feel that way with Chris Sale, though. I feel like there's just dominant innings where you'll watch and you're like, these guys are overmatched. They can't touch him. And it looks like Chris Sale from many years back at this point.
You love the strikeout.
I do. For Cy Young, it's easy, especially in the first half of the season. I want the full body of work. It's easier in the second half to start to separate innings and to look at some specific starts, some opponents. It's tough to do that when you're getting 17, 18, 19 starts from guys in the first half of the year. So I'll go with Chris Sale. I think he's been fantastic, and I think he's also in a ballpark where you see a lot of offense. Let's do some Rookie of the Year picks. Want to go American League first?
Perfect. Junior circuit. I'm going with Luis Gil.
Okay.
Luis Gil, first half, I don't care that he had that little blip. What he did as a rookie, like, let's be serious. That was dominant to the point. I thought he should have been in that first round of all-star team. But it's not about snubs here. It's about what a young man who is coming back from injuries, who was a Yankees young prospect when I played with him in the alt site during COVID, and I saw the absolute lightning bolts that came out of his arm. And you sit there and you go, how is this guy doing it? Because he had some flashes when he was up in 22 or 21. I forget which year it was. But either way, he had flashes, and he put it together. He put it together for 85% of his starts in the first half. I don't think there's anything even close in the American League.
Wow. I agree. That's why there's not much close to what Luis Gil was able to do. You're going to ding him on a few starts kind of later on towards the first half of the season ending. Tough. National League side. I'll go first.
Okay.
So for me, Skeens is close, and he's been so dominant when he's there, but he does have significantly less starts than the other two names that I was considering, which are Shota Imanaga and Gavin Stone. So I was going back and forth. I'm going Stone for now. Outstanding rookie. Yeah, that's a little surprising, isn't it?
I am surprised.
And this isn't an award where you're considering other surroundings, but you look around, I mean, it's not like the Dodgers have just been swimming rich with pitching, you know? This is actually for the first half. I don't use this stat almost ever in life anymore, but his win-loss record's 9-2. I know he's on the Dodgers. He is out there. He's winning games. He's giving them innings. He has a wide variety of an arsenal. He's pitching. I think he's pitched against some pretty upper echelon teams, and he's shoved against them too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going Gavin Stone here. It's close. I would have gone Imanaga for a while. I mean, Cy Young Imanaga for a while. The league has adjusted to him. So I think they adjusted to him just in time for him to go like slightly below Gavin Stone for me. But I'm looking for volume in the first half of the season. It makes a difference. I mean, he's got way more starts than Paul Skeens in the first half.
He does. And Paul Skeens has absolutely dominated for what he has been given. And I am the last person who's going to be like, oh, he's so awesome. Put him in the All-Star game.
Yeah.
Oh, he's so amazing. Give him this award. No, I think I completely agree where you got to sit there and you got to go, who's played the most? Who's done it the longest? Who has the most time to get this Rookie of the Year award? Unless you do some elite stuff. And we're talking every start. You think, okay, when is he going to get shelled? When is Paul Skeens going to, his blip in the radar going to be? Haven't seen it yet. Haven't seen it yet. And he is the most valuable rookie. To me, he is the Rookie of the Year for the first half. He's brought baseball back to Pittsburgh, possibly, if Pittsburgh wants to make moves. Jared Jones going down right before the break, and Mitch Keller, great job. But it is Paul Skeens' team, and I don't think there's any other rookies. As much as Gavin Stone has kind of anchored that rotation that needs an anchor, besides Glasnow, who Glasnow is always going to be talking about like innings limits and stuff like that. So you sit there and you go, who has anchored this? Well, every 5 days, here comes Gavin Stone. So that is valuable. I get it. But Paul Skeens has it, and I think it's something that I think if we're talking about projection, it's also going to be his award.
Yeah, it's close. Well, what could hold him back? Obviously injury for anybody, but also if the Pirates do really fall out of it, then they could cap him at the end of the year. They could cap innings at the end of the year. So, but yes, I project that I will pick him at the end of the year. But anyway,
as
first
the kids
half.
say,
yeah.
I hope no cap.
Yeah, no cap. Different cap. But
different
anyway.
cap. But
I'm curious to see everyone else's picks in the FT roster.
Rookie of the Year. Right now, for me, Luis Gil. He came out of nowhere. The guy was supposed to be a fifth starter, and he was actually the number one starter for the Yankees at one point when Garrett Cole was hurt. He's dominant, has a dominant fastball, and a really good changeup to boot. Watch out for him in the second half.
Well, let me first start by saying this, fellas. I really and truly believe that Our game is in a incredibly good place, and it is in incredibly good hands when you start talking about these young superstars that we have emerging in our league. But for me, when you start to talk about rookies of the year, you have to go with Paul Skeens. I mean, what he's been able to do is just impressive. You're talking about a guy with the best stuff in baseball right now, hands down. His peers have said it. Guys that have faced him have said it. I mean, he continues to impress every single day and not bat an eye. This guy looks like he's more than ready to stick around for a long, long time.
Starting with the NL this time, I'm going to go with the San Diego Padres' own Jackson Merrill. Going into the season, I figured that it would be a Jackson, probably because there were so many highly touted Jacksons going into the season, and he was actually my guess so far. So for the NL, so I'm excited that I can say that I'm still feeling that way and that he is still at the top of the list for me. Impressive year out there in San Diego. Big reason that they've had the success and are in second place right now in the NL West. Maybe something that people thought wouldn't be happening after the departure of Soto, and a little bit of a step back from their aggressiveness in the free agency and trade markets in the past. But they acquired Arias, and Jackson Merrill's been swinging it, and they're right there. So big fan of him, and really impressed with what he's done in his rookie year. For the AL side, and I'm a big fan of this guy, and I got to be his teammate for a couple months. He's impressive. His name is Mason Miller, and he is out there in Oakland giving us shades of Andrew Bailey's rookie of the year campaign. He's just electric. He's got some of the best raw stuff that we've seen since Aroldis Chapman came to the league. And it's one of those things that you don't believe it until you see it in person. And he is able to do things that most humans just aren't able to do.
National League was a little bit easier for me, and I'm going to say Paul Skeens because the Pirates haven't lost the start that he's had yet. Also, he's going to the All-Star game. He punches out a ton of guys. He goes out, he gives them 6 innings, 10 strikeouts, 9 strikeouts, 1 run, 2 runs. They're always in the game. They always have a chance to win. So for me, easy choice in the National League. I know Shota Imanaga got off to a great start, but Paul Skeens for me has surpassed him in the National League. In the American League, I was thinking maybe a Wyatt Langford, a Colton Cowser, but they haven't been as good or as dominant as Mason Miller of the Oakland Athletics. 102, 103, fireball, great slider to back it up. When he gets a chance to come in and save a game for the Athletics, game is over. So for me, 2024 first half, Rookie of the Year in the American League, Mason Miller.
My Rookie of the Year so far for the first half of the MLB season. In the NL, pretty easy. Paul Skeens. This guy is the show right now. He's lighting it up. He's must-see TV. He is turning out to be not just a hard thrower, but a pretty damn good pitcher too. And we're going to be saying his name for a long time in this game, and you just hope he stays healthy, has a long, beautiful career, because the start that he's off to is incredible. Over to the AL, there's some good names. I know Gil on the Yankees could be one that pops up. I'm a position player, I was a position player, so I'm going to stick that. Wyatt Langford on Texas is one of my favorite players to watch right now. I think there's no other way to say that this guy plays the game the way it's supposed to be played. The hustle, the defense, the offense, his at-bats from the first at-bat on that I've seen this kid play is incredible at such a young age. To be only in college probably, 2 years ago? So he's already fastly becoming one of my favorite players to watch play this game. So Paul Skeens, AL, Wyatt Langford.
Yeah, so my AL Rookie of the Year is going to be Ceddanne Rafaela. I mean, this guy has got swag. He plays 2 of what I think are the hardest positions on the field every single day. He plays shortstop. He plays center field. And for you to go out as a rookie and be able to play both of those positions, not many people could do that. And not only play them, but he's playing them at a high level. He's making diving catches, making all the plays he needs to be making on the infield. And I don't know if we saw the other night, but, I mean, he's got the gold chain now. He got paid. He's blowing bubbles, making plays at the same time. So I think he's got the swag to go with it. And he's a player that wants something. He wants to go out and be special. So I'm going with Ceddanne Rafaela. You know, I don't think this comes as much as a surprise, but I'm going to go with Paul Skeens. This guy has just shot onto the scene, throwing 100 every time he goes out there, every pitch. But not only that, to me, what makes this guy special is throwing 100 with the command that he has and the presence that he has. And, he's mature beyond his years, I feel like, just the way he goes out there. If you can watch him, he's never out of it. He's always in control. So to me, he has injected life into this Pirates organization, and it's just a special, special kid. We all know that. So pretty easy one for me. Paul Skeens, Rookie of the Year. NL.
FT fam, we're coming right back. Welcome back to Foul Territory. We are on Bally Sports. We're on Marquee. We're on the FT YouTube channel. Please subscribe. And if you want to ask us questions, that's the place to go while you're watching on TV. You can go on the Bally Sports app as well. It's Scotty Braun and Eric Kratz. You've heard from many of our FT friends. We're going to just address a couple fan questions for now. Let's start with one from Positive Mets fan sent us this note on Twitter, and this is a good way to reflect on the first half of the season. What can teams do better to eliminate sticky stuff ejections, especially if they're using illegal substances like rosin, sweat, and dirt? This has come up often. I have a feeling that the Twitter handle gives away the fact that this has to do with Edwin Diaz missing some time for the Metropolitans.
Or the fact that the Mets have 3 pitchers that have gotten caught since they banned the sticky stuff and then implemented their crazy way that they're gonna, this is how we're gonna judge how sticky tacky is.
Max, who was the other one?
It was Max Diaz and
there was a third one?
I thought they had 3.
Okay. Anyway, you address the question. I'll find the other person.
How are they addressing it? Just like any rule in the clubhouse, teams go over this. This stuff doesn't just slip through the clubhouse and I had no idea. Kind of wish the team had told us about that. A significant rule like this, because of how much everybody was using sticky stuff, it's gone over. The best teams, and I'm not saying that the Mets are, nefarious in this. I'm not saying that they're saying whatever, we don't want to go over this stuff. I'm saying the best teams dot their I's and cross their T's. And they'll say, look, guys, when you, in the summer, put suntan lotion on because you're afraid of getting skin cancer, sitting in the bullpen in whatever city we're in, if you put rosin on, it will get sticky. And then they go from there. It's really not much else. Hey, this is the other stuff that has caused this type of infraction or things that get too sticky. And then you go from there. Guys make their decisions. These are adults. These are adults that are making decisions to come into games. And I'm not saying Diaz was doing anything illegal, but I'm saying he may have been pushing the line a little bit. So from that situation, I'm sure the rest of the team is learning. We talked to Otto about it. We talked to Adam Ottavino about it.
Mm-hmm.
Guys are always trying to talk to each other to figure out, what did you have? If Edwin had something on his hand, other guys need to look at it and say, I got to stay away from that. I can't get into that rosin bag, Edwin's rosin bag, or the bullpen rosin bag. It might not even be Edwin's. It's just one in the bullpen. Or at night in New York, after a rain delay, it's super humid. Or in Florida, now Florida's a dome, so it doesn't matter. In a dome, it's really dry, so you're going to have to use a little more rosin. It's just about talking through this stuff and hoping you don't make the mistake. Definitely 2 times, and we can't come up with a third one for the Mets.
Drew Smith. I found it.
Okay, I thought there was a third one.
Google helped. Drew Smith.
So that's a team that needs to dot their I's. They need to figure it out because not everybody's innocent.
Yeah, but also it's not about the legal and illegal substances. It's also just the stickiness of your hand, which I know is subjective, but you can use too much of a legal substance and become illegal.
100%.
I feel like some pitchers don't know that because we hear post-game and they're like, I'm using the same thing. I'm like, well, then you're not following the rules. Someone didn't tell you how this works.
And ultimately,
you can hate the rules, but these are the rules right now. We hate the rules, but these are the rules.
Ultimately, it's the player, but before the ultimate, decision maker, it's the team. Teach these guys. are the minor league pitchers that are coming up getting like, oh, when I wipe here or whatever, I've never tested positive for too much stickiness in the minor leagues. So when they come up there, hey guys, the sweat up here with the smaller ball or the whatever they rub the ball up with now up here in the big leagues creates a stickiness. Try not to wipe your sweat on, and that's a bad example, but it's just one of those things that they have to inform the players on what these guys are testing positive.
Next question, and it'll be the last question here. And I saved this one for you for this segment because I knew I was going to be with you for it. Cheney on YouTube asks, can you ask the guys how much Cleveland's success can be attributed to Stephen Vogt? Not much else changes. How are they so much better? We've covered Cleveland and the hitting that's changed, the approaches that have changed, which is still wild to me that you can just tell a bunch of major league hitters like, yeah, let's worry a little less about the contact and try and hit with a little more slug, especially early in the count. And then boom, it just happens. But anyway, the Vogt factor for a minute from you.
So it's twofold. First of all, Cheney, yes, this question was directed towards me, and I appreciate that because I'm a huge Stephen Vogt fan, and it is all Stephen Vogt, nothing else. He is making the team better.
It doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah.
Just insert little leaguer.
Cheney, I hope you still play. I hope you have a pulse and you're breathing because Stephen Vogt will make you an all-star.
Even if you're a bot, if that's legal.
But bots are coming.
Bot baseball.
Soon it'll be the bot league.
Yeah.
But the B in baseball will be bot. But Stephen Vogt is the reason that this offensive change has worked. And I'll tell you why. Because if you come up from the minor leagues and you come up to the big leagues and you don't hit a lot of home runs, but you're making a lot of contact.
Stephen Kwan,
Will Brennan, the rest of that outfield
sure.
from last year. They sat there and they go, I'm doing what the team wants me to do. I've been promoted, congratulated, high-fived, built up based on what you told me to do. Now you're telling me as an organization, let's say the organization says contact is fine, but we want you to drive the ball a little bit more. And we know what happens when you drive the ball. Maybe you won't make as much contact. And these guys go, okay, you told me to. And then the ball starts going on the ballpark. Here we go. Promotion, high fives, all-star games. Like to the point where all that comes around to the first part of it with Stephen Vogt. If he's going, why are we striking out more than we did last year? I don't understand. But no, Voter is all about encouraging the guys in a positive, real way. And that's, to me, that's the biggest turnaround. You have a approach, and that approach is only good if when the times go bad with that approach, people are going, I got your back. I know what you're doing is good. Keep it up. And that's what Voter does. That's what Voter brings to that team. Not saying Tito couldn't, just saying Voter's the manager now, and this is what this team's doing.
It helped the team start fresh, too. Yeah, because it's not like Tito sitting there being like, we don't like homers. You know, I mean, Tito was managing a Red Sox team that was bashing baseballs left and right, winning a World Series. It's just easier to take the same group of players and tell them something differently with a different coaching staff. Even if that's what the organization's deciding as well, right? The front office, this is all in tune with each other.
Yep.
Yes, all in tune. So anyway, great question. We always love the questions. If you're a regular watching FT, you know that we answer questions every single day on the show. We see them on socials. We see them in YouTube. We see them everywhere else. We ask them on the show where you can watch on national television in the Bally's app, Marquee, YouTube, the whole deal. So we thank you always for asking those questions. We'll get back to live questions on Thursdays, FT, and we'll be right back.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Foul Territory alongside Ken Rosenthal. I am Alana Rizzo, MLB Insider. There's nobody better than Ken when we come to these questions. The first thing I'm going to ask you, Ken, as this trade deadline heats up, name the teams that you expect to be active.
Well, Alana, I would say all 30 to some degree, but we'll stick to 3 here because we're trying to narrow this down. So I'll start with the Orioles. They're a team that badly needs starting pitching, probably could use a reliever as well. And the starting pitching situation for them is even more urgent than this year would present because only 3 of their starting pitchers, Grayson Rodriguez, Cade Povich, and Dean Kramer, 3 of their current members of the rotation, are under control for next year. Not counting injured guys, I'm just counting those 3 guys who are currently in their rotation. So they clearly need a starter, not just to help them get through this season, because they've lost Kyle Bradish and a couple of others as well, but to get them to 2025 when they're looking at adding as many as 3 starting pitchers. So that's one team. The Dodgers certainly are another, also in need of starting pitching, perhaps a bat in the outfield as well. But with the Dodgers, what's so interesting is they have all of these starting pitchers, but they're in various states of disrepair or poor performance. And that's why they need anyone who can help bridge the gap to October and possibly contribute in October. Garrett Crochet is an obvious fit. Even if he can't be a full-time starter in the second half, he's a guy they can throw into the mix with all of the pitchers that they have. Glassdown, Bobby Miller, and Kershaw, and Buehler, and Yamamoto. All of these guys that are kind of either in or out or kind of getting there. Gavin Stone's been their most reliable, consistent, healthy pitcher. So they need to address that. They'd love to get a shortstop as well. I just don't know if that will happen. And finally, the Mariners. This is a team that has held first place in the American League West for most of the season, despite having one of the league's worst offenses. Jerry DiPoto, their president of baseball operations, and Justin Hollander, their general manager, are normally among the most active of executives anyway, and they've got some money to play with now. They didn't spend in the offseason. They claim they're flexible with their payroll. They need a bat, maybe more than one bat. Stick one in the outfield, stick one in somewhere else, maybe in the infield, and you'll be in a much better place if you're the Seattle Mariners. So those are 3. I'm not mentioning the Padres, another team that is always active, but those 3 stand out to me in particular.
I love the way that you said that they're in various stages of disrepair or poor performance. That's a great quote. All right. What about, Ken, teams that are on the fence as far as being buyers or sellers?
Well, this changes by the day, Alana, so I can't say for sure here, but I'll give you 3 just that come to my mind. Tampa Bay Rays. They're a team that has already made some trades, sell-type trades. Aaron Savali was one, Phil Maton was another. In both those cases, they had players who could replace them, who were in their system or organization in some fashion. So they didn't consider those strictly sell trades. Clearly, if they don't get into the race the way that they want to, if they don't get above 10% playoff odds, something like that, even 20%, they may sell some other pieces, and they're kind of interesting. They've got a Rosarena, they've got Zach Eflin, they've got others that they could move. So that is one team that is on the fence, could engage in buying and selling, and certainly if they get back in it, could buy in some way, shape, or form. Another team in this same situation, and this is crazy to me, the defending World Series champion Texas Rangers. They have disappointed in this first half of the season. Their offense has come on of late, and it looks like they're going to be in good shape with their pitching. Scherzer is back. They're getting Tyler Mahle back, hopeful on DeGrom. So it's entirely possible that they still could be a formidable team in the second half and a veritable contender. But at the same time, if they go the other way, if they decide to sell, they've got a lot of interesting pieces, rotation pieces, bullpen pieces, hitters that they could move, and they could actually control the deadline in that fashion. The final team I'll mention is the Cubs. The Cubs have been an extreme disappointment this year. They have not played particularly well. They have not hit. Their bullpen has been a mess at times, but they've played a little bit better at points in July. So I expect them to take this right to the end and try to figure out who they are. If you remember last year, Alana, they had this big run at the end of July and they became buyers. I don't know that I will expect that. And I don't know what they would have to sell really besides Cody Bellinger if healthy. If they do reach that decision, they've kind of committed to this year being a step forward. I don't see them taking a step back rather easily.
All right. So the Rays, the Rangers, and the Cubs. I want to ask you this question about a particular team. The Toronto Blue Jays, Ken, are you of the mind that they should buy and sell?
I'd actually like to see them sell, period. because I believe that they could be, as I've just mentioned about the Rangers, a team that kind of controls this thing. They have a guy who would be the best hitter available, Vlad Guerrero Jr., under club control through next season. Bo Bichette, it's a health question, same thing, under control through next season. They've got some potential free agents as well. Certainly, Yusei Kikuchi will attract a lot of interest in the market, and Yimi Garcia, if healthy, will do the same. So, in my opinion, this hasn't worked for them. Their so-called core has not delivered. They've had enough chances. They need to retool, and the best way to retool would be start moving some of these guys and bring in younger players. Their farm system is not all that deep, and some of their pitchers are hurt. So I see them as being in a really problematic spot. I cannot see them buying unless it's for a piece that will help them for the future. Selling would be the way to go.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think if they buy, it's for 2025 and beyond, not for this 2024 season. All right. Finally, Ken, on this special edition of Foul Territory, players to watch.
Well, I just mentioned one of them, Yusei Kikuchi. He is one of the top starters who will be available. I'll give you another one, Jack Flaherty, if healthy with the Tigers, is a guy that certainly has pitched a lot better than he did last year when he was traded and didn't pitch very well after he was traded. And someone that is still young and, while a potential free agent like Kikuchi, is really attractive. From the Marlins, I mean, pick a player, any player. Jazz Chisholm Jr., Tanner Scott, Josh Bell. Chisholm and Tanner Scott, I expect to move. Tanner Scott maybe most of all as a potential free agent closer. He's a guy that does walk a lot of hitters, and that scares some teams, but he also has gotten results all season long for a terrible team. I always wonder when guys move from non-contenders to contenders if they'll be able to adjust to that kind of different speed, but certainly Tanner Scott is going to get the chance to do that. And finally, I'll mention some of the White Sox players. Garrett Crochet, certainly a guy that is really a hot name and has been for quite some time now. He's had an extremely great performance in the first half, an all-star performance. It is his first year as a starter. He has had injury issues in his past, so it's a confusing kind of situation with him because teams will value him one way, and the White Sox are saying, no, we're trading you a number one starter, which he has been, just hasn't been that way for much of his career. Then you've got other White Sox players as well. Eric Fedde, of course, a starting pitcher, who is more of a workman-like type than Crochet is. Not a high-end guy, but certainly someone who is definitely a good pitcher. And then Tommy Pham and the rest of their potential free agents are also likely to move.
Yeah, perhaps Michael Kopech as well. You never know what's going to happen with Luis Robert Jr. The Pale Hose definitely have a lot of chips to sell if they decide to go wholesale and do that. Thanks so much, Ken, for the insight. We always appreciate it here on Foul Territory. And don't forget that Fair Territory with Ken Rosenthal airs twice a week on Monday and Thursdays at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. And then, of course, Dodgers Territory on Monday and Thursdays as well.
What's up, FT fam? Let's look ahead to the second half of the season with a little BetMGM futures pick from each of us. So, Eric Kratz, you're going to lead the way.
Easy. NL MVP is coming off at plus 600 right now. Bryce Harper. He's going to overtake Shohei. Shohei's going to continue to do what he's doing. But Harper's going to be on the best record in the National League, not the best record in baseball. That'll be the Orioles. But Bryce Harper, plus 600. Taking it, NL MVP for his third MVP.
What do you got?
I'm going to go with AL MVP. He's on the outside looking in, but I think his team picks it up a little bit in the second half. That's the Royals. They got Bobby Witt Jr. coming back and taking it from Aaron Judge. I don't know how you do that. The guy's got 34 homers, but Bobby Witt does everything. He's the top 5 percentile in fielding, running, hitting, everything. So
plus 2,000,
and he's plus 2,000.
Wow!
So let's.
I love that number.
Too, huh? How about that?
That's hot. AJ,
I'm going safer. I'm going Mets to make the playoffs.
Oh, that.
I think Stevie Cohen's going to go out and get somebody, make some moves. Will they ever get Senga back? Looks like he's on his way back. I think that the Mets are going to sneak in there. I mean, they're over 500, which we didn't think we'd be saying right now, and I think Alonso's going to get hot. Lindor's going to get hot. Some of their other guys are going to get going. And I think the Mets sneak in. It's only plus 125. So It's not that big of a jump. But when I look at the Mets make the third wild card with some of the other teams,
I like their chances.
I think the
that
Reds
money.
are right there too, and they're at plus 600 to make the playoffs. They're starting to get guys healthy. I still like the pitching, so we'll see what happens, but I like the odds there for Cincinnati. I also dropped the San Francisco Giants to make the playoffs about a month ago. I still like that too. That's still playing in the plus 350 to plus 400 range. It's been dancing around there. So for BetMGM customers, or if you're new to the party, you can go to the BetMGM app or BetMGM.com. Sign up and deposit at least $10 into your BetMGM sportsbook account. You got to use the bonus code FOUL, F-O-U-L, place your first wager, and receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if the bet loses. And if that bet does fall, your bonus bets will be available once your initial wager is settled. Gambling problem or concern, call 1-800-GAMBLER. FT is swinging back in just a moment.
My favorite moment of the first half, and this was very hard to choose because there were so many great ones, but it was recent, and it was Jose Miranda's 12th straight AB with a hit, tying the record in the MLB out there in Minnesota. He did it at home, and his ovation and the celebration of that crowd was electric. And I just love seeing records getting tied or broken, especially records like that are not the easiest ones to get to and kind of need a lot to go right in order to happen. Jose Miranda's an impressive hitter. I think he raised his batting average like 50 points in 3 days, which you love to see when you're in July, especially when you're the guy. But that's impressive. Getting 12 hits, honestly, getting 12 hits at all is impressive to me. But getting 12 in a row was great, and he just had the biggest smile on his face. So maybe there was a little bit of being happy for the Twins territory and the Twins fans.
The best moment of me for the first half would have to be the no-hitter by Ronel Blanco. This guy came in strong. It was his first start of the year. Played against Toronto, who's a really good team, and went out there and shoved, man. His changeup is elite, and I'm looking for big things for him to kind of boost Houston in this second half to get back in the division lead.
My moment of the season so far has got to be the Blanco no-hitter. I don't think anybody expected this guy to come in and pitch like he's doing, not only with the no-hitter, but he's actually been pitching really well this year for him. But to me, anytime you can see a no-hitter, a perfect game, or any of the things that go down in Major League history, you got to take notice to that. So, and no-hitters are always fun to watch. So I'm going with the no-hitter.
I personally love when MLB does it now when they go to different cities for games, whether they go over to London or to Tokyo or something. When the MLB went to Birmingham, Alabama, little hat tip to the Negro Leagues. They did a game at the Rickwood Field with the Cardinals and the Giants. I thought was awesome. They built that field out perfectly. I thought they did a fantastic job with it. And it was a good game too, and the Cardinals came out on top. But I just love the throwback uniforms that they used, and I love bringing back the past into today's game. So I thought that was my favorite moment of the first half.
Yo, Kip, I get it. Rickwood Field was awesome. But besides hanging with you at NASCAR recently, you and Alana, my favorite moment of the first half was getting to go to London, getting to see MLB try to grow the game internationally. All the Mets, all the Phillies fans that were over there. And personally, getting to take BP in Trafalgar Square, something I never thought I'd get to do. So, listen, it's cool how MLB is trying to go around the world. Mexico City, they went to London, they tried to go to Paris, but they're going to go around to places. They did Korea, they've done Japan, they've done Australia. It's just awesome to see the responses from other countries, other parts of the world, and how much they truly love baseball. So for me, getting to go to London and see that experience firsthand, top notch for the first half.
So, quick follow-up, AJ, how were fans there? Like, are they excited about baseball there? I mean, I know some of them aren't the most educated. Then you have some diehards that are like, I finally get to see a game in my home country, or I'm from the U.S. and somehow moved over there. So how are people there? And do you have any countries in mind that you would like to see host a little baseball action at some point in the future?
The fans were awesome. Not only there was obviously a ton of Met and Philly fans that were there, but there was a lot of Londoners, British people that I spoke to that were, oh man, I'm really getting into this baseball thing. Yes, they say we have American football, and we go to that every year. But man, this baseball thing, I really like it. It's exciting. There's a lot happening. There's a lot I didn't know about it. So they're really into it. And was there another country I'd like to see them do something in? Oh man, I mean, they're hitting a lot of them. I mean, Dominican in spring training, they've done Puerto Rico. Just grow the game. Brazil maybe might be an option. I know the NFL is going there. But other countries in Europe need a game too, not just London. They tried to do Paris, obviously it didn't work out. But just because Europe is kind of the next big thing, I think, for baseball. And heck, let's get a game in Poland. We can have Kratz play for, he's probably British, so we have Kratz play for Britain, and I'll play for Poland, and we'll see who wins.
Boom, there you go. I'll call one out. How about Amsterdam? Because
Well, that's just because you want to do different things.
No, I'm not even going. I'm watching from here, where there's
If Major League Baseball wants to sell baseball
Yeah.
in other countries and they have to travel everywhere, there's nobody better than the vagabond AJ Przinsky. Like, this dude
just
travels
put them everywhere.
just
Yeah,
everywhere. He travels everywhere, so he's your he's your liaison through all.
Actually,
the
Amsterdam.
countries.
Honestly, Amsterdam would be a good one because of the Netherlands, Curacao, all that, Aruba. They've had some success in the WBC. So yeah, Scott, you would go. You would miss the game because of other reasons, but yes, it would be a cool place, and a lot of
Traffic.
fans would want to go.
there's a lot of traffic. Plus, I would give up my ticket to someone
There's
else.
no
just,
traffic. Scott doesn't know how to ride a bike. That's the problem. He would get lost.
If you guys ever let me finish a sentence, I would have said the Curacao connection and how we get to see
Whatever.
dudes like Bogarts. And is Profar on that list?
Mm-hmm.
Where's Profar from?
Profar's
He is, right?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Perfect. So he's
They were
part.
all-
So this plays perfectly into my turn. My favorite moment in the first half of the season actually just revolves around the Padres in a number of ways. There is definitely criticism on AJ Preller not winning enough, but there is no criticism on him being entertaining as a general manager. So I'll put that in two ways. Number one, you sign a guy like Jerks and Profar, where I think many teams were pretty down on him after negative WAR or whatever he had in 2023. Like, oh, he's done. He shouldn't even be in the league anymore. Well, he was an all-star starter, okay? And I also love the way that Profar plays with a lot of passion, and it might tick some people off here and there, like the Washington Nationals, so much so that their entire team has to meet and talk about it. Jake Urban was on our show, who had a great first half with the Nats, and told us that after that game where he hit the big walk-off against them, they talked about it, and that's why Keibert Ruiz ended up kind of poking him that next day. Bench is clear. Then he magically gets hit next pitch from Mackenzie Gore. That was one of the games of the first half of the season, so that stands out to me, and I'll just add to the Padres picture. Of course, they acquired my dude Luis Arraez way before we see most trades going down, which is always fun to see. I'm always encouraging more early trades. Most of these GMs need to be put to a deadline to be able to do anything, but they improved their offense. I think because he's such a different ball player compared to most, he affects the lineup more than most numbers can show. I relate that to how some of the best bullpens have a lot of variety to them. Some of the best lineups also have a lot of variety to them. So I give credit to the Padres for giving us some fun in the first half of the season, coming off a really bad 2023. What about you?
I'll just couple right off of that. And it's a personal one for me. My favorite moment was watching Kyle Higashioka hit his walk-off home run for the Padres on so many different levels. One, Campusano, who's supposed to be the starter, hasn't really picked it up offensively. Higgy has double-digit homers. He has been that kind of spark plug off the bench, only getting 100 to 140 at-bats. And this team kind of has to learn to win this way. They got rid of Soto after it didn't work last year. This lineup was supposed to be this juggernaut, and guys have bounced in and out of it, not done what they're supposed to do. And a guy like that, to see that moment, for him, for me, it's a personal thing. Like my roomie hitting a walk-off homer, not getting a lot of opportunities, gets traded from the Yankees, who are doing really well in the first half, kind of skidded towards the end, but you sit there and you go, this Padres fan base needs this.
Mm-hmm.
They constantly, somehow, I don't know how they're doing it, if they keep adding more and more seats every night, but they sell out and they keep breaking their sellout records. And it's exciting to me when you can connect with a guy who has a big hit for a team that needs to scratch and claw for all their victories in a tough NL West.
We're critical on this show, but not every team's going to win the World Series, So I just want to give credit to an organization like that for keeping things interesting and entertaining and being competitive at a time when they totally could have kind of pulled back, right, and said, hey, we're going to scrap everything down and start again. We had a little winning window. It didn't go as well as planned. We have new ownership, not new, but the owner who was running the ship for a while, unfortunately passed away this past offseason. So yeah, I'll add to that. I'll give them some love where I feel like they've been flying under the radar to an extent. Plus, Higgy's dealt with a variety of pitchers. Darvish has missed most of the first half, or a good chunk, right? Musgrove's been out for a lot of the first half. Some of the big boys that you would have said have to show up have had a lot of issues, and they're still hanging around in the wild card race as well. So anyway, hope you enjoyed everything we went over here with the first half recap, little second half preview, and regular FT is every single weekday year round. So on Thursday, we're back to our regular 3-guest schedule. Shout out to Mark, who's booking guests every day and probably just has the best job in the world. He loves doing that. So we get you players every day. We get you insiders, Ken Rosenthal, the whole deal will be back with us. Shout out to Valley Sports TV, the app, Marquee, FT YouTube fam for providing all of the questions. We'll get to all of your questions, obviously, on Thursday and Friday, and look forward to some bonus trade deadline coverage. So thanks for watching this one. We hope you had a nice All-Star break. Let the games begin again soon, and FT's back on Thursday.